It's no secret that Ford has been facing a rough ride with its electric vehicles. From plummeting sales to massive losses, the Blue Oval's EV ambitions seem to be hitting a major roadblock. But the recent news of Ford shutting down EV production entirely and doubling down on gas-powered cars has sent shockwaves through the entire auto industry. So, what went wrong? Why are customers rejecting Ford's EVs so hard? Let's find out. Ford, well known for their cars, is in a bit of a tough spot with their EVs. The company's CEO, Jim Farley, made a bold decision to stop making these electric cars. This move is making waves in the car industry and has everyone talking. Originally, Ford was excited about their electric cars, thinking it was the next big thing. But it turns out, not many people wanted to buy them. Despite all the advertising and effort, Ford's electric cars weren't a hit with the customers. This huge surprise for Ford made them rethink their whole strategy. The situation got so serious that there are now about 92,000 Ford electric cars that nobody has bought, sitting in dealerships. And because of this, Ford is losing a lot of money. We're talking about $4.5 billion. This is a big issue for the entire car industry. Ford, in an attempt to boost the sales of their F-150 Lightning model, rolled out some big incentives and took advantage of federal tax cuts. They even offered discounts of up to $115,000 off the sticker price. Despite these hefty price cuts, the F-150 Lightning's popularity seems to fade. But why is Ford facing such a crisis with this model? Despite these hefty price cuts, the F-150 Lightning's popularity seems to fade. But why is Ford facing such a crisis with this model? Garrett Nelson, an analyst in the field, might have some insights into why Ford is stuck in this tough spot. It could be that customers are not ready to switch to EVs, or maybe the F-150 Lightning didn't meet their expectations. It's also possible that the overall market for electric trucks is not as big as Ford thought. Whatever the reason, it's clear that Ford's big bet on the F-150 Lightning is not paying off as they had hoped, and they're having to work hard to try and turn things around. So, what's Ford doing about it? They're changing their plan. Instead of focusing on electric cars, they're going back to what they know best: cars with regular gas engines. This is a huge change in direction for Ford, who were previously all in on electric cars. This decision by Ford is also making other car companies, like General Motors, stop and think about their plans for electric cars. Everyone's trying to figure out why people aren't buying Ford's electric cars and what this means for the future of the car industry. The big picture. Is this the end of EVs? There seems to be a significant gap between what car manufacturers like Ford are offering and what consumers actually want to buy. EVs are not quite hitting the mark for a lot of customers. The reasons? Practicality issues mainly, like the current state of charging infrastructure and concerns about how far these cars can go on a single charge. Plus, even if you decide to buy an EV, you're likely facing a pretty steep price tag. This situation is tough for the workers involved in making these EVs. Ford is facing the hard reality of job cuts and layoffs. They've already let go of nearly 700 workers involved in building the F-150 Lightning. And now, even while selling their EVs at a loss, they're still dealing with financial struggles. Ford wants to keep up the image of being innovative, almost like a startup, but the reality is they're facing huge financial losses. Darren Palmer, the vice president of Ford, has been quoted saying that it's too early to worry about EVs stacking up unsold in dealership lots, maintaining that there's still demand for these vehicles. Ford's EV sales have dropped in the second quarter, and reports are suggesting that the company is bracing for a massive $4.5 billion loss in their EV division this year, following a substantial loss of $2.1 billion last year. Ford's struggle in the EV market stems from three main issues. The first issue is the significant investment required for the transition to EVs. Ford has committed a substantial amount of resources to research, development, and the creation of necessary infrastructure, exemplified by their plan to build a $3.5 billion battery factory in Michigan. Unlike some competitors who have moved production to more cost-effective locations like China, Ford faces higher costs as an American manufacturer, including paying higher wages to its workers, despite receiving government tax incentives. The second problem is Ford's pricing strategy. In an effort to capture a larger market share and compete with rivals, Ford lowered the price of its electric F-150 Lightning pickup truck. While this move was partly influenced by the decreasing costs of raw battery materials, it's a strategy that could potentially harm Ford's financial health in the short term. Compounding the pricing issue are Ford dealers who have been adding significant markups to the EVs, in some cases increasing the vehicle's price by $5,000 to $8,000. These markups can deter potential buyers and make it difficult for Ford to sell these vehicles at the intended price points. These challenges, high investment costs, a difficult pricing strategy, and dealer markups have combined to create a challenging situation for Ford as it tries to navigate the evolving automotive market and establish a successful presence in the EV sector. Ford is in a challenging spot with its EV market. The company's CFO, John Lawler, has mentioned that getting into the EV business often leads to losses at first. Even for big companies like Ford, they're using their well-known brand to help them deal with these losses while they try to improve their EVs. But there's a problem. If Ford's EVs don't sell well, having a famous brand might not be enough to keep them going. Ford knows this and is keeping up with its traditional gas-powered cars while also working on electric ones. CEO Jim Farley is part of the big decision-making about the future of electric and gas cars. Ford has partnered with Almirall Energy Storage to get important materials for EV batteries, aiming to make 3 million EVs by 2030. Ford hasn't forgotten its regular cars that run on gas. Their Ford Blue division, which focuses on these gas and hybrid cars, is planning to make more cars, about 160,000 more, in the next few months. This shows that Ford is trying to balance making both types of cars. General Motors, GM, is doing something similar, investing in both gas vehicles and EVs. They are putting over $2 billion into new trucks, SUVs, and engines this year. Ford has made changes in its company to handle both gas and electric cars. They have different divisions for gas and hybrid models, Ford Blue and for electric cars, Model E. Farley has mentioned that gas engines are still important in the U.S., especially for bigger vehicles. While they see electric cars as the future, they know that gas and diesel vehicles are still in demand and profitable. The debate about moving from gas cars to electric cars involves not only car companies like Ford, but also the government and the public. It's a big decision that has to consider environmental concerns and what people actually want and need in a car. According to Ford's top dogs, traditional engines are not ready for retirement. The VP of Ford USA emphasizes that the future isn't a simple choice between old-school engines and electric batteries. Ford, ranking third in hybrid vehicle sales, is proving there's still a market for hybrids. Ford's strategy involves cutting down on the F-150 models to streamline production, making things more efficient. However, an outright ban on traditional engines could throw a wrench into the works. The worry is that a sudden shift to all-electric vehicles might lead to new problems, especially considering the reliance on China for electric vehicle materials. This concern isn't unique to Ford. The CEO of Jeep warns that banning internal combustion engines by 2035 could create social issues, making electric vehicles a luxury for the wealthy. Other major players like BMW and Mercedes are exploring alternatives like hydrogen and ammonia fuel cells for more affordable options. Ammonia fuel cells are expected to aid in cost reduction, potentially providing more options for consumers. Ford is steadfast in its belief that internal combustion engines, IC, are here to stay. Notable models receiving updates and enhanced hybrid systems include the Maverick, the Ranger, and the Explorer hybrid. Ford has taken a surprising turn by abruptly stopping EV production, including the best-selling F-150 Lightning. This move has sent shockwaves through the automotive industry, raising questions about Ford's ambitious venture into the electric market. The critical question now is whether Ford can grasp what buyers truly desire, a realization that may have come later rather than never. The industry is divided on the combustion engine's fate, with Ford's CEO Jim Farley swimming against the current trend. Only time will reveal the outcome of Ford's bold choices and whether they align with the evolving automotive landscape. That wraps our discussion for today. Do you think combustion engines should be banned? Share your thoughts in the comments section below.